Turn the mics back on, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. Welcome back to everybody. My name is Jeffrey Davis. Jeffrey Davis, chairman, founder, Mage LLC, also host of Radio Entrepreneurs. Just to make it clear, this is not my full-time job. Being hosted by the wonderful law firm of Tarlow, Breed, Hart and Rogers. That means my co-host is the one, the only Mark Furman.
Jeffrey, great to be with you. Very much looking forward to hearing from our next guest.
Me too. Want to meet a first-time guest, Steve Marcus, founder and attorney at Marcus, Errico, Emmer and Brooks, correct?
Correct.
Got it. So tell us about, I'm going to make it much cleaner, MEEB.
A lot of people refer to us as MEEB.
MEEB.
But in the condominium industry.
Yeah, but this is all about Yube, not MEEB.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So tell us about the firm.
Okay, we started the firm in 1993. There were only a few condominium practitioners at the time. Several of us got together. We opened an office in Braintree, Massachusetts. We now have one in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and we represent 4,000 condominium associations, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. We do some developer work inside and outside of the condominium world, and we deal with lenders who do these funky loans to condominium associations if they need like $10 million to replace the siding, for example.
Well, you're not my therapist, but I just came off, I was president of a board in Florida 2 years, and it was the worst 2 years of my life, being on a condominium board.
I wish you had spoken to me 2.5 years ago, because it's a awful position. I try to tell attorneys, don't do it. You're gonna not be able to resist, or other people. It's there's no compensation.
No,
you can get sued.
Full-time job.
It is full-time job, and you're unlike a business. Your neighbors,
who I don't like anymore,
who
I don't like anymore,
but they have access to you at the pool, getting the mail, and
every 24/7 via phone.
Yeah, and they have no problem knocking on trustees' doors, complaining, bothering their spouses,
threatening.
So it's threatening. So it's a thankless job. The one thing we do suggest is that the board have a good directors and officers liability policy, because adding to all the other aggravation you mentioned, you can also easily get sued. And generally, just to strike fair, people sue association boards and then the individuals personally.
Even though there's not a lot of grounds to do the personal suits?
We typically get the individual count. The individual count's dismissed.
Breach of fiduciary duty type claim.
Yeah, breach of fiduciary duty. You acted wrongfully in terms of what you did. As soon as you mention it, the good thing for us is we do a lot of insurance defense on condominium and HOA cases, homeowner association cases, and once somebody puts in a claim, breach of fiduciary duty, and attorneys seem to have a hard time not putting that in versus declaratory judgment or something specific to the case, that automatically triggers defense and indemnification from the directors and officers, carriers, and there are some specialists, and not all policies are the same. Some cover discrimination, or at least the defense of discrimination. Some cover EPL, employment practices liability, and some don't. Some have the attorney fees within the limits of the policy. So from $1 million case, you use $500,000 of attorney's fees, there's only $500,000 left.
So this subject of making sure you have adequate insurance it's really important, not just if you're going to be a condominium trustee, but in business. You know, I handle business disputes as my practice, and you know, one of my pet peeves is, you know, clients who aren't adequately insured against foreseeable risks for their particular business. So and I think you're emphasizing, Steve, that not all policies cover the same thing.
Yes.
And just like there's no such thing as boilerplate in legal contracts, insurance coverages differ, and it's really important to...
You need an agent or a risk advisor, or our office does reviews of insurance policies. But we're not only concerned about the fact that there are several carriers who their life is this, a lot of their business is this, and they get it, and they understand a claim, they understand when to deny or when to approve a claim, when to do it under reservation of rights, in which case the attorney for the association can represent in Massachusetts the insured. But the problem I'm having these days is twofold. One is it's not the kinds, it's also the amounts. The $1 million has been the Fannie Mae standard since 1979. It went up to $3 million to be the same as co-ops for about a year. Went back down to the $1 million. $5 million from people we know costs like $300 more. $10 million makes sense. $25 million makes sense. They can do $50 million. Our answer to the question of how much should we have is how much money do you have? How much do you want to spend? We recently had a case out of I have a huge national involvement with a nonprofit called Community Associations Institute. So I was the president of their college and on the amicus brief committee and was chair of it. And there was a case out of Nevada recently in the last year where the judgment was $20 million. The association, a child fell off the swing set, permanently brain damage. There was a $20 million judgment, $2 million of insurance. That's an $18 million shortfall.
Yeah. And I wonder, how many folks who agree to become trustees can picture themselves as a defendant in that type of lawsuit where, you have this horrific personal injury.
The concern, I think, is you get on the board, you move into the condominium. Getting on the board would be a nice way to meet the neighbors. You'll meet the neighbors, but you won't like it. The other issue is so that's on the D&O side, and liability is the same thing in terms of how much. But also, there are two types of policies for property. One is stated values, and one is guaranteed replacement cost. If a policy says it's for $10 million, the insurer and the agent are not guaranteeing you if it burns to the ground, and some do, that they can replace it for $10 million. So you really have to get your own insurance replacement cost appraisal, and a lot of like buildings in Boston that have been around for a long, long time. There's something called building code or ordinance, and everybody is either has no insurance or is underinsured. But if half a building burns down, you're responsible for meeting today's code. We have a case now on the North Shore, $12 million loss, or it would have been $12 million coverage, $16 million because they had $4 million not covered because they didn't have enough ordinance of law.
Yeah.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
There's a lot of theoretical and that can turn out to be actual horribles in this world as of condominiums.
Yes, and the other horrible and probably the best example is the Millennium in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, the Leaning Tower.
The sinking tower.
Yeah.
So Simpson Conference, who we love, but typically the recommendation is tear the building.
Client of mine.
Okay, tear the building down and start again. They do it right. So they're the advisors, engineers in San Francisco. And last I heard, I think they're like movie stars and all that.
Everybody's there.
And so $20 million units, $30 million units. Simpson Gumpertz has obtained quotes. Their idea, which sounds weird, but Simpson Gumpertz is almost always right, is sink half the building. It wasn't put down far enough into the bedrock, so sink half the building, and the other half will settle eventually with it. It's going to cost, though, $59 million.
Oh, my goodness.
What do they mean by sink it? You mean let it go in the ground?
Sink down to the bedrock, yes.
Right. There's a lot of logic to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean,
It sounds very practical.
They didn't dig. It probably would have cost them $5,000 more to dig down a foot deeper, and they didn't. So now they have the issues, and the association, we do a lot of construction defect cases. The unit owners have to pay for the expense of the litigation. You hope you win, but it's a litigation is long, and it gets appealed when it's in the $59 million range. So,
and it's expensive. The process is expensive.
Extremely.
To sue a developer.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon for there to be construction issues on new developments.
I love listening to you, and I'm trying to keep my mouth shut because I had too many experiences I'd love to share with you. But Stephen, if someone were looking
we'll have
for
to
you,
make it into a longer show.
Yeah, if it was
A sequel.
an unbelievable experience, I'm not going to explain on the air. If someone were looking for you, and I'm on two boards because I own a condominium also in Canada, but that's a lot simpler. Canadians are much less contentious.
Yeah.
They're not. They just get along. So if someone's looking for the firm, and I think it's important to have the right firm with a condominium, it's true. And my law firm in Florida saved us, the Florida condominium law firm. They were great.
Becker and Polyakov?
No, I'll tell you
Okay.
about it.
All right.
But if someone's looking for your firm in New England, how would they find you?
Our website is Meeb, M as in Mary, E as in Ed, E as in Ed, B as in boy.com. Our phone number is 781-843-5000, and my email is smarcus, M-A-R-C-U-S, @meeb.com.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Sorry. I hope you come back again. Sorry I didn't mean to cut you off there at the end. And, if we're talking to law firms, we're usually doing our shows from Tarlow, Breed, Hart, and Rogers, another law firm. And Tarlow, Breed seems to love law firms, and that's probably because of my co-host, Mark Furman. So thank you again, Mark, for hosting us.
And we love Tarlow Breed.
Oh, that's nice.
We've had
to know.
experiences with them, and they've all been
Yeah.
good ones,
Well-
which doesn't often always happen with other law firms.
No, it's
Thank you,
not.
Steve.
When my wife and I had a friend who had a problem, and right away we said call Mark Furman last week. There's no doubt, Mr. Thorough, no doubt about it. And we're going to take a break, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs.